Hello, welcome to the interview here on France 24. Well, graphic video of inmates in a prison in the ex-Soviet Republic of Georgia being beaten and sodomized by guards has made headlines around the world. Now, Mikhail Saakashvili, Georgia's president and the man who led the 2003 Rose Revolution, was very quick to condemn the abuses, and he has vowed to bring to justice those who are responsible. Nevertheless, the prison scandal comes at a very awkward moment for Georgia on the eve of parliamentary elections, which many see as a critical test of Georgia's young democracy. Now, my guest today is Tornika Gordzadze. I'm sure I'm going to get that name wrong many times. Yeah. Welcome. This scandal has made your job a little harder, and I'm going to tell the viewers what your job is. You are the newly appointed minister since late last month, Georgia's state minister for integration with both the European Union and the Euro-Atlantic Alliance. That's a long name, but basically it means you go back and forth between Tbilisi and Brussels to try to explain Georgia to Europe and try to explain why Georgia should be part of Europe. Your job, it seems, just became a lot harder, or at least that's my impression. Do you see it that way?
Oh, I would not say it like this, because Georgia's the first reactions that we had from international community and from most democratic countries and from Brussels, from Washington, is first, of course, of condemnation and shock of these images. But at the same time, they judge the action of our government on our reactions. And this, as you mentioned in the beginning, our reaction was very quick, very radical, because we replaced all penitentiary
the Interior Minister resigned.
2 ministers resigned.
And the Prison Minister.
Prison Minister and Interior Minister resigned both. And the newly appointed Minister for Penitentiary System is the person who was the most severe critic of our penitentiary system. He has a NGO background. He's the person who later became public defender, and he has always been a critic of the situation in prisons. So this reaction is, of course, first of unanimous condemnation from the part of the government, and then quick reaction to solve the problem, shows that Georgia is a democratic country. These kind of things can happen everywhere, unfortunately, but the reaction of Georgia was very positive and very quickly, and it's really appreciated.
No one's going to argue, and a lot of people say the president did react the way he perhaps should have reacted. The question for anyone who's even vaguely followed Georgia in the past decade: the president has been someone very pressed hard on reform. You don't see that much corruption anymore. He's almost stamped it out. Very little bribery. How do you explain such a flagrant abuse, such a grave violation of human rights in a country which in other ways has made a lot of progress? How do you explain that?
Yeah, you're right. Georgia has made a tremendous progress. It's not my opinion. It's the opinion of all authoritative international watchdogs and international organizations. We have totally eradicated crime, corruption, have diminished significantly crime rate in the country. We have made great reforms in terms of human rights, because we have the best legislation on minorities in our region. But this is clearly a mistake, a fault,
a major oversight.
It is recognized as such, and I will try to explain in 2 phrases how it happened. At the beginning, since the Rose Revolution, there was a huge set of reforms to diminish the crime rate in the country. The crime rate of Georgia was comparable to what was in Latin America.
It was just out of the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
really.
Just out of the Soviet Union and post-Soviet period.
Post-Soviet,
10 years of post-Soviet system under the previous president Shevardnadze, where the mafia and the state were kind of created in mixed networks, and they are governing the country, and the corruption and embezzlement was a way of governing. So from 2003, first reaction was to a major crackdown on crime, and then of course the penitentiary population has increased dramatically.
So you filled the prisons.
The prisons are now have much more people than before, and the police made tremendous efforts to stop torture, and now Georgian police is totally torture-free. But
they're the ones in the prisons right now, right? Yeah, they've been sent into the prisons to be the guards.
Lots of course, the guards were on these tapes. 15 of them are already arrested, and they are waiting for judgment. But coming back to the situation in prisons, yes, we made a serious mistake, because this the penitentiary administration that curbed the violence inside the prisons because the prisons were dominated by mafia bosses before, then they had an impression, the penitentiary administration, that they were not controlled at all, and the control was very weak. And it's true that the fault of the government was not to pay enough attention to the monitoring or to control of this
the inspections and the regulations.
Yeah.
That said, let's put the prison scandal aside. Even before this, there have been periodic large protests in the streets of the capital against President Saakashvili. Some people have even described him, despite the good things that have been said, as authoritarian, wanting to cling to power. He could even, some polls suggest, lose. His party could lose the elections next week. And you'd be out of a job, I suppose, if he did. I mean, do you see that as a possibility?
No, clearly, I don't think it doesn't seem me as something possible or realistic at this stage.
40% of Georgians are undecided, some of the polls show. Undecided at this stage.
At the same time, the ruling party had 25 points of very comfortable advance to in comparison of the Georgian Dream, which is the second largest political party. So I don't think the reversal is possible. But at the same time, we understand and we consider as a government that the people who are angry, they have a moral ground to be angry. Their anger is legitimate and normal. At the same time, Georgian electors, they know United National Movement since 2003, 2004. And if somebody is able to reform, to finish all these reforms in this country, is UNM. Because
so you think people are willing to give Saakashvili the benefit of the doubt at the polls? They want to let him finish the job? You know,
today, paradoxically, we have a best situation in prisons ever. Of course, because of this crisis, and the reaction was so swift. That's why people see, and what they see on the other side is a strange coalition, very heteroclite coalition of headed by a
Georgian
billionaire who comes from Russia with a personal wealth that is higher than the Georgian
half of
state.
We've heard the statistics. His name is Bidzina Ivanishvili, right?
His wealth is more than state budget and half of Georgian GDP. He's just the biggest individual shareholder of Gazprom.
But hold on, let me just, since you brought him up, let's just look at him for a second. He is the primary challenger for the presidency. Obviously, Saakashvili can't run again. We don't know who will be running. But this man is admired by a lot of Georgians, aren't they? Because he is seen as someone who's also spent money helping a lot of Georgian villages.
No, I'm not saying that he has no support in Georgia. Last polls before this scandal erupted, they were at somewhere from, according to NDI, they were at 12, but as there was a huge number of people undecided, like 40%, reasonably they were between 25, 28%.
But it's gone up since the prison
we don't have, there's no polls yet conducted since the prison scandal. But of course he has supporters, and Georgia is a democratic country. I would like to mention that there's not a single political party that was not registered for these elections, unlike in many countries in our regions. All political forces are participating. All political forces have equal access to media. This is the interim report of OSCE that was made on our observatory mission of these elections, and they have, of course, huge resources to compete with the
elections so far. No one's condemned them. Smoothly functioning so far. The parties are registered. Ironically, if Mikhail Saakashvili, if his party were to win, rather a small or a big victory in this parliamentary election next week, you could fear there could still be violence and protests in the streets. People think it was rigged.
Yeah, the problem is that we still, and this is one of the major concerns, because we still don't have a clear statement from the leader of Georgian Dream that he will respect results of elections, provided that these elections are, of course, recognized as free, fair, and transparent by the international community.
He said he won't respect any result, no matter what, if Saakashvili wins under any circumstances.
No, his answer was very ambiguous. He never said that he will not, at any circumstance, not recognize the result of elections, but we still don't have a firm or clear statement from his side about the situation is complicated by the fact that there is a lot of nervousness. We have our big neighbor, Russia, that is conducting military exercises right now, 50 kilometers from the capital, Tbilisi. And this is, of course, I would say, fomenting some kind of nervousness in the
nervousness. And, sir, I'll point out as well, for our viewers as well, the leaders, Vladimir Putin does not speak to Mikhail Saakashvili. They have no working relationship. since the war of 2008. Do you see that changing in the near future? Briefly, we're running out of time.
Of course, Georgia, since the war 2008, Georgia made several steps in this direction. We renounced to our right to reunite. We made a solemn pledge to solve our problem, our territorial problem, only in pacific ways. We are not going to use force to restore our territorial integrity first. And Russia did not reciprocate for that. We are asking to reciprocate, they refused. We accepted Russia's membership to WTO. We have lifted visa requirements for Russian citizens. All these steps remained, I would say...
You're saying Russia has not responded in kind, and until it does so, you don't see a normal relationship possible between Georgia and Russia?
At this stage, we don't see any reaction from their side. On the contrary, Mr. Putin several times declared that he would like to see Saakashvili to leave.
Yeah.
And it was even one of his first statements when he was re-elected recently, that when he was asked about future relations with Georgia, he asked, just remind me when Georgian elections are planned. So that's obvious.
Okay.
That,
we're in a stalemate clearly on that issue. Like I said at the beginning, I assume your job is pretty tough right now.
We're accustomed
reaching
to
out
tough
to
jobs.
and it's fair to say one word. When you knock on people's doors in Brussels right now, do they say, "Sir, we love Georgia. Come back to us after your elections. We'll talk then"?
No. We have lots of ongoing negotiations with the EU. We're negotiating association agreements. We're negotiating free trade agreements.
We've got to leave it there.
Visa negotiations.
We're going to have to keep watching.
It's an ongoing process, and we're
Come back
now
after the
much
elections.
closer to you than before.
Come back after the elections. Let me know how you're doing in your new job. Tornika Gorzadze, thank you very much, Minister, for EU Euro-Atlantic outreach with Georgia. Thanks for being our guest today on the interview, and thanks to all of you for watching.